Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, is it good to be back sharing this with you guys. I had a great conversation with Jasdeep Mago from Mumbai, India. And for longtime subscribers to the program, you'll remember that I interviewed Jasdeep and Jay Punjabi, her business partner with Invisible Illness, many years ago, probably 2.5 years ago now. And it was wonderful. And we got to reconnect this time, and we talked about all sorts of things, and it was like old friends getting together. It was really, really nice. And I don't know if I'm more in awe of the conversation and the fact that I've connected with somebody halfway across the world, 9,000 miles away, or the fact that I was talking to somebody halfway across the world, 9,000 miles away, through the blessings of technology. I think we curse technology a lot, and we take for granted its benefits, of which this is one. Certainly the ability for you to download this and listen to it wherever you're listening to it and however you're listening is something that couldn't be done 12, 15 years ago for sure. And now we can do it from our living rooms at the drop of a hat and talk to people halfway across the world like they're in the next room. It's pretty amazing. And I am humbled and honored to have somebody so smart and talented and hardworking as a guest on this show. And if you have not connected with Jasdeep, I highly recommend you follow her on Instagram, certainly Invisible Illness. She puts out a lot of videos like we do at Zephyr Wellness. And that's a nice segue into inviting you to follow us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook so that you can get some of our free content. We try to put out as much as we can at the pace that we can that makes sense to us, just so people can have access to helpful hints and tips and educational pieces without needing to necessarily step into the office. So we're in Northern Nevada, zephyrwellness.org if you want to find out more about the organization. But not everybody can come to Northern Nevada for professional psychotherapy. So in the spirit of yield theory and meeting you where you are, let's try to push some information out to you. So I do some videos. I try to teach some stuff. And a lot of it has to do with emotional functioning. And we try to cross-platform it so everybody has access to it. And that's the spirit of this podcast, too, to share it broadly so that people can educate themselves and enrich their own noggins. And speaking of educating and enriching your noggin, if you have not yet checked out Audible, you probably should, and you can do so with a free trial at audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. You get a free 30 days, you get a free audio download, and it helps us out to keep this podcast on the air. If you decide to cancel inside that for 30 days, you still get to keep your free audiobook. So it's no risk and all reward. audibletrial.com/nogginnotes. You'll get access to Audible's incredible inventory of audio content and a free one of your own. Check it out. Without further delay, I reintroduce you to Jasdeep Mago of Invisible Illness India, clinical psychologist, and now I can comfortably call her a friend and colleague. Enjoy. Welcome back, Jasdeep Mago from India. How are you?
I'm good. Doing very well. How are you?
I'm so glad to be seeing you. I'm doing well, actually. It's an awkward position when you own or co-own, in my case, a therapy company, and we keep growing and business is booming and we're setting records year over year because people are hurting, and that really bothers me. It's really like, I want to work myself out of a job. I really do, because it means we'd have a healthy community, but we're not. So it's like, do I celebrate the success or do I mourn it because people are suffering? And that's always tough. But overall, we're okay. Pandemic is, doing whatever it's doing. And I just got my vaccination.
Really?
I got the Moderna shot. Yeah, I got both injections just 3 days ago. I got my second one, and very, very few effects from that.
I was just going to ask, how are you feeling?
Good. I have a brother-in-law who's a pharmacist, and he suggested doing multimodal NSAIDs. So 600 milligrams of ibuprofen every 4 hours and 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol every 6 hours for a couple of days. And it knocks down the body aches and the headaches and some of the hot, cold, chill symptoms and whatnot. And it totally worked. And there were two separate times when I didn't do it. One was, I mentioned we're in the middle of the snowstorm. Like a couple of days ago, we had another snowstorm and I was snow blowing for like 6 hours and I forgot to take my medicine and it totally hit me. Like it totally hit me, knocked me down. I was super fatigued, chills, feverish. And then last night, I didn't take anything yesterday because I thought I was through it because it had been like a day and a half and totally hit me again. So I popped some more ibuprofen and I was good. But yeah, for people who are listening, if you're not like, I get the privilege of being on the front line, I guess, and treating people. So I got round one, but if you're in line, definitely load up on the multimodal NSAIDs. It definitely works. So, that's how I am. Otherwise I'm fine. My wife had more symptoms than I did and some of my colleagues did, but I made it okay. So, but I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you.
So I just had one question about the vaccine. You said you're in the front line. So in the US, do they qualify therapists and psychiatrists in front line?
They do, because the general consensus is that you got healthcare workers who are treating physiological symptoms, but because of the lockdowns, people are suffering so bad mentally that they wanted the mental health workers to continue working as often as they could, in person as often as they could, because our field has been blessed with this Zoom technology, which is really nice, and we're learning to become competent in telehealth. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, and when we're already forced apart, I think it sends the message that it's one more reminder that we're distant from each other. So all the more we can do to keep people connected face to face in physical contact, I think is a good thing. And the vaccinations do that, which is great. But, I don't take that privilege lightly. I know that there's other people out there who need it, the elderly and the frail and school teachers, other quote unquote essential industries like, mini marts and grocery stores. So how's it going in your neck of the woods? You're literally on the other side of the world. It's pretty wild.
So to be honest, initially when it began, it felt like we were on vacation. So it was great. At least for the privileged part of of our country, right. It felt like such a relief, like so stress-free. And then we slowly started to realize the smaller problems. Of course, me as a mental health professional, there was immediately, like you said, such a hike in the demand for our work. Yeah. So many people reaching out randomly. So many brands reaching out to, now talk about mental health, not just people reaching out for therapy, but also bigger companies, brands, anything, literally anybody and everybody was reaching out for like, can we do an Instagram live or can we have a talk? Can we have some content on mental health, which was great because we believe that obviously, we like any kind of awareness is really good. It's needed. It's essential in our country. So the more the number of people that are talking about it, the better it is. Mm-hmm. No matter why they're driven to talk about it, we can't really judge that, or it's up to everybody as to why they choose to talk about mental health. But in that moment, obviously, the pandemic was demanding that everybody talk about, say, anxiety or being stuck at home. And so initially, it was really, really. So the scare of COVID was bigger than what COVID was actually in our country. We barely had 1,000 cases, but our entire country was locked down. And that's like nothing for 1.3 billion people.
Yeah, if you're listening, that's billion with a B. 1.3 billion people. So like 10 times the city of Las Vegas.
Yeah. So basically, for us,
no. That's 100 times the city. I'm sorry. No. What is that? That's 1,000. Las Vegas has about 1.3 million, and the outlying areas of Clark County comprise like another couple 100,000. But like, that's 1,000 times the size of Las Vegas. I'm sorry, I'm not a math person. I got 3 degrees, and they're all in the arts. So 1,000 times the size of Las Vegas is your country. That's huge.
Yeah. So when we were going into lockdown, we were just like, this is so unnecessary. But there was such a panic created. So
Right.
we were all like just following with the panic. And the panic that was created was really the issue more than anything. There was paranoia that was built, which led to like people feeling supremely anxious, feeling stuck, and being stuck and isolated alone for a lot of people who come from smaller towns and live in cities. Um, and so the isolation, the distance from families, of course that became a whole mental health concern. But like, speaking of purely of the COVID scenario in our country, it went from being great to like disaster. And then that's when it hit disaster was when our country decided to sort of like open everything up, because they were just like, now our economy cannot afford being shut anymore.
So hold on, I'm totally unfamiliar with this because I've been paying attention, I guess, as is the bias of the American media, to Europe and the U.S. and a little bit of China because that's sort of where it originated. But I have no idea what you're talking about. So do you mean when COVID exploded, the country opened back up?
Mm-hmm.
That's
so we were in
wild.
lockdown for 5 months, and it was very strict lockdown, extremely strict. By that I mean you are only allowed to leave for essentials, and that also at a certain given time, not out of that time.
How did they police that? What was a penalty if you were out, say, not doing essentials or outside of your time frame? How do they police that?
It's a really bad way of saying this. I mean, they policed it by having patrolling everywhere. So where
Wow.
I live, I pretty much live in like the center of the suburb in Mumbai that I live in. I live pretty much in the center of that. So I would see like police vans patrolling all the time, them
Wow.
being on bikes, and like like the municipal workers, doing that. And they would like, and honestly, there was such a panic created on the media that nobody wanted to leave their house. Like
Right.
it was crazy. Honestly, it seems like a lifetime ago that happened, because so much has happened since then
Right.
that
Yeah, totally.
it feels like that part of lockdown happened like 3 years ago. That's what it feels like right now.
Did you happen to know? I want to stay on this for a second because I want to compare notes for the listening audience, because I know most of our people listen, domestically here in the U.S. It's fascinating to me, and I don't know if you paid attention to the U.S., but we have like basically every state did its own thing. Like there was no unanimous consent because we're so fractured politically. Like we made science politicized, which is the most absurd thing in the world. But we had no leadership at the top, and then all the states fought each other, and we're still fighting, like right down to counties within states. It's really pathetic. So you guys didn't have that. You had some real strong leadership nationwide, is what it sounds like, huh?
Yes, initially, and then eventually, what happened was the states that were worse hit by COVID, or had higher number of cases or more deaths, or were running out of hospital beds, basically, they had higher restrictions. So, like the state I am in had a lockdown way longer than the rest of the country, way longer, because we are still in a really bad state even now compared to the rest of the country. So for us, the lockdown, so yes, there was statewide division that way, but not so drastic where there were internal fights and things like that. It wasn't that bizarre or that divided, I would say, because central government still sort of handles everything. State government is still secondary. But what really started to like prop up was like minimum, like daily wage workers were really struggling, obviously. So like they had to leave. They are people who come from really, really small villages to the cities to earn daily wage, literally. So for them, like it became a huge issue in our country. There were a series of other things that happened simultaneously at that time. And it almost seemed like the government was trying to hide the media was trying to hide the COVID reality by masking it with other irrelevant news, by making it bigger and grander. So that kept happening. So the
like what? What did you have going on?
For example, there was a movie star in Bollywood who committed suicide at the time, which became a huge mental health concern, because in the midst of the lockdown, when a huge celebrity commits suicide, it creates a ripple effect. It creates a copycat effect. And I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah. Meaning, and if you're unfamiliar, if you're listening, somebody dies by suicide, and then other people think, oh, well, if it's okay for that person, I can have that path out too. And we don't really have that problem these days in America, I don't think, because suicide's